Welcome everyone, and hope you can all hear me. Okay, welcome. A very warm welcome to yet another webinar from Data Platform Geeks. Before we hand over to Jason, when we start talking about extended events and profiler, let's just take a few minutes and give me the opportunity to talk about our community and what we have done. So many years back in 2004, we started off with a small user group meeting, and you can see a very small setup. And this was done so informally. And we precisely remember that we just had like 7 people in this so-called meeting, which happened in Calcutta in India. And from that point onwards, we had a very good, huge organic growth. We formed SQLServerGeeks.com. It took a professional shape. We started venturing out in different parts of India. We conceptualized SQL Server Geeks, SQL Server Geeks Annual Summit, and then we moved to Data Platform Geeks to cover the larger data stack of Microsoft. And we also conceptualized Data Platform Summit. So you can see a great journey that we went through from 2010 and all the way till date 2022, and we continue to do a lot of stuff around the Microsoft Data Platform community. Some of the key things that we have done over the years is, of course, webinars like these. We have done in-person events called SQL Server Day, Data Platform Day. We have done virtual symposiums. 2 years we did SQL Server Geeks Annual Summit, and that transitioned into what we call now as the Data Platform Summit. And all of you know, due to pandemic, a lot of things went virtual. Likewise, Data Platform Summit moved virtual, and this is the 8th year of DPS and 3rd year being virtual. So we have DPS 2022, which is also announced. So a lot of links out there. We'll share this with you so that you could explore our journey, and we'll be glad if you do. This journey has brought us to a place where I can, very happily share this picture with you, which was taken in 2019, because this was the last big in-person event that we did in Bangalore. We had like 1,200 people coming from 20 countries who collaborated, joined. Thanks to Microsoft and all our speakers and attendees, we had a wonderful event. So a huge contrast when we compare what we started off in 2004 versus what we achieved in the last few years. Not only the DPS event in Bangalore, but overall our community has grown and reached to 108 countries. So the numbers here on the slide are not updated, but last what we saw that we have people joining in our community, SQLServerGeeks.com and DataPlatformGeeks.com from 108 countries. So that is massive and is very, very satisfying for our people. When we did Data Platform Summit in India, we had people traveling from a couple of countries, but not more than 20 or 25. But if we look at the numbers of DPS when we went virtual, including this year, we had people joining in from more than 100 countries. And I use this number 108, which is very satisfying again. So friends, Data Platform Virtual Summit 2022 is already announced. Registrations are happening in full swing. So just hop on to dataplatformvirtualsummit.com and register. The big news is DPS is free. You're not paying even a single penny, and you get to attend 200 sessions, more than 200 sessions from more than 200 speakers, out of which 130 speakers are industry experts from the community, and about 70 speakers from Microsoft from different product groups. So all of that content is available to you absolutely free. You just need to go to dataplatformvirtualsummit.com and register. Check out all the links in the chat window. Along with the regular summit, we also have pre-cons. Many of you know what pre-cons are. These are 8-hour virtual classes that we do a week prior to the regular conference. So these are deep dive classes, 8 hours in duration. You get to attend live, and you also get the recordings. So here are some of the pre-cons that we are hosting, and you can see that we have everything to do with Power BI, Synapse, Query Store, Spark for data engineers. We have Azure Data Factory. We have Power BI Performance, Data Modeling, Transact SQL. We added 3 more pre-cons last month or so, focusing on SQL Server Performance Tuning and PowerShell DBA stuff. So they are also up there. So we have a total of 12 precons. A special mention to the precon about this precon, Master's Passport to Extended Events by Jason Brimhall. And I take this opportunity to talk about this precon. And we have Jason with us live today, who will take some opportunity after the webinar to talk about his class. So his 8-hour virtual class will take you from zero to hero when it comes to extended events. We are assuming that all of you are using Profiler already, and this webinar is about why you should switch over to extended events, and his virtual class will go even beyond that, deep dive into extended events. I'm not going to talk much about that, and I would leave it to Jason to talk more at the end of the webinar. So friends, all of you, if you're keen on his pre-con, you can use the special discount code called 60 Steal. Just look at the top of the screen, which gives you 60% off on the listed price. So if you're keen, punch in this discount code and make the booking ASAP. One of the biggest advantages of pre-cons at DPS is that you get the recordings absolutely free for next 12 months on demand, which means you can watch the recordings, the class recordings, as many times as you want. A lot of delegates book multiple pre-cons with DPS because they can attend one live and they can watch the recordings of others. So that makes it very convenient. So go ahead and do your booking. Also note that this time DPS has multiple editions. We have 5 editions: ANZ, APAC, IST, EMEA, and the Americas. So while you can register, your registration is for all the editions, you can choose which edition you want to attend. Also, a great move towards diversity. We are having content in 14 languages at DPS 2022. So, I mean, in case you're not a native English speaker and you're looking for content in Spanish or German, Portuguese, Hebrew, it's all up there with DPS 2022. We have an exclusive track on SQL Server 2022. Many of you might be looking forward to that because you know that SQL Server 2022 previews are out, and probably later end of the year, we might see a general availability of this version, the latest version of SQL Server. Our focus at DPS has always been content. So friends, 200 sessions are already published. So go to dataplatformvirtualsummit.com, hop on to sessions. So you can see the session menu link right on the top, explore all the 200 sessions and choose which ones you would want to attend. You will see a huge technology coverage. Almost 30 technologies are being covered under Azure Data Stack. Well, with this, just take a note of this URL once more, dataplatformvirtualsummit.com. All of you and your team members are cordially invited to attend. Bookings are open. Thanks to Microsoft once again for supporting our community initiatives. I'm not going to take any more time about these URLs and our social presence. We'll send you an email with the link, so feel free to follow us wherever you feel comfortable. You're also well versed with the virtual world right now, so no housekeeping announcements at all. Just use your microphone, use the Q&A panel for questions, and we are good. Well, feedback, we'll take that later. With this, over to Jason. Thank you, Jason, for joining us, and thank you for taking out time to do this webinar for us.
Thanks, Amit. It took me just a minute there to find my microphone button again. Let me go ahead and change to sharing.
Yes, you can share now. I've stopped the sharing.
Okay, you guys can see it again.
Perfect.
Okay, as Amit said, today we're going to be talking about Profiler and extended events. Bonus points to people that recognize the little battle bot that's on the screen there. It's kind of an indulgence. We like to watch BattleBot in my household, you know, because it's kind of geeky and it's kind of destructive at the same time. So with that in mind, we're talking about a couple of the juggernauts in the SQL space, Profiler and extended events, and it's going to be a little bit of a smackdown today. A little bit more about me. Just hit the go right here. And apologies for my voice this morning. And I know it's evening for some of you and whatever time of day otherwise, but I got a little bit of a frog. And I apologize, it's not the best, but as you can see on the screen, as that was coming up, pictures are worth 1,000 words. You see various different things about me. I do find myself very occupied with my family. So you have that top and center, and that's a pretty good representation, that silhouette of my family. I do have 5 children, and we are gone pretty much every day doing some sort of activity, with whether it be baseball, softball, basketball, football, dance, swimming, you name it. We're busy. I am a Microsoft Certified Master. I do have a couple books, and I really do enjoy participating in the community. And so with that, here's today's agenda. Okay, we're going to talk about and try to figure out what is Profiler and what is XE, also known as Extended Events, also known as XEvents. So I will use XE sometimes, I use XEvents sometimes, and sometimes I'll use the full proper name, Extended Events. And just a little side quip on that. Sometimes you'll even say XE events. I know it sounds redundant, but the reality is the feature is Extended Events. And inside of that feature, you have events and actions and other things. So just kind of a preview into the Master's Passport pre-con. We will discover some of those events and all the different underpinnings of extended events. But you might hear me throughout today here say extended events. So just understand that's the feature and then the sub feature. Any rate. So pros and cons to both Profiler and extended events. And then we'll also have barriers to extended events. And these barriers have come about from my years of presenting on extended events and talking with people and finding out why they don't get into extended events. And we'll kind of debunk some of those barriers and discuss that near the end. Okay. I am an interactive presenter. I know we prefer in this session to hold the questions all the way to the end. I will try my best to hold questions. I do like to ask questions, have the audience answer. But in trying to meld the two, I have introduced an interactive survey into my presentation. That survey, if you will scan that QR code with your phone, you can go ahead and take a survey right now. We can talk about that survey as kind of the icebreaker as we progress. So I'll give you just a few seconds here, and then I'm going to switch off of this so that I can go to the survey panel, because it won't advance unless I'm on that screen. Okay. And 5 and 4 and 3, because I don't like dead space. 2 and 1. I hope everybody had enough time there. Okay. I'm going to kind of try to pin that over in the corner just a little bit so you can sort of still see it. And I will shrink this window so that we can still see it as well. That'll give you a chance to still continue to hit that QR code. And I'm hoping this runs. Come on. Oh, this worked, and now it's a fail. Let's see if it's doing anything on mine. Okay. Well, that was not bueno. All right. Instead of doing it that way, since it did not want to, it doesn't want to advance. Here are the questions right here, and it's I know this is kind of lame doing it this way, but which version of SQL Server do you mostly use? And I really wanted to find out, you know, and this because it helps to understand where we're taking the session. I will troubleshoot this and make sure it's working for the Master's Passport, and test it more than just a few times. All right, so we got 2008 and R2, and then we got 2012, 2014, 2016, 2017, so on and so forth. Just go ahead and put those into the Zoom chat. And then moderator, if you could just kind of tally those up. I don't, if that's Amit, go ahead, if you could do that for me, Amit. Let's find out what versions people mostly use. I'd like to kind of see what the spread is on that. The next question, and this doesn't work so well because you guys just saw the answer. When did extended events become available in SQL Server? And I really wanted to see what people were going to choose there. You have 2005 through 2017 as the options. And when did a profiler become deprecated? And the same thing, go ahead and put your answers in the chat. We have options 2000, 2008, 2016, 2012, and 2014. And as I said, I'll go ahead and troubleshoot this for another time. That way we can just get along. Get that off the screen. Okay. And I'll look at the okay. So thank you, Corey. So the first question, I'm assuming 2012 is predominant version. You put that in there. When did extended events become available in SQL Server? That was 2008. When did profiler become deprecated? For everybody on the call, the correct answer is 2008, when extended events also became a feature. And a little background on that, you will not see any new events added to profiler or server-side trace since 2008. It has been stuck at roughly 180 events ever since then, and extended events came out with roughly 220 events in 2008, so already more events, even though there was some disconnect between certain events that people liked in profiler and the extended events feature. That was rectified quickly, and you pretty much have everything that you need to have in extended events and then some. And it is really extensive. All right, and this is my take on profiler. This is SQL Server on profiler. If you're still using it, let's try to get unstuck and move on to the future and get something a little bit better. All right, a little bit of a background there. I just gave away my hand right there. Yes, extended events is better than profiler. Hands down, no contest. Profiler's not even in the same galaxy as extended events. All right. Okay. And then again, something that works better when we're in a group, because this is fun to see everybody laughing. Describe the different isolation levels in SQL Server. I'll just go through these quickly. These are general interview questions that I like to help clients out with sometimes. So I've asked these of various different candidates, and these are real world answers that some candidates have given back to me. All right, so in this answer, those are not allowed in the state of Ohio. I don't understand where the candidate correlated Ohio and isolation levels in SQL Server, but hey, if SQL Server is outlawed in Ohio, then I guess everybody in Ohio should probably move out of the state and find a better place to live for SQL Server, but I happen to know that that's not the case. All right. And what is DBCC clone database? And this is a fun one as well. It's a little feature in SQL Server that came out a couple of editions ago, and not a lot of people, even to this day, are familiar with DBCC clone database. It is a very useful tool. What's it got to do with the extended events or profiler? Not a lot, but it's just fun. All right. It'll help you clone your database. I'm giving away the answer first. It'll help you clone your database so that you can get a testing schema without any data in it and without impacting whichever database is having issues, or if you wanted to allow a developer into a secondary database to test the statistics, for example. All right. This was kind of an odd answer. It performs data consistency checks via check alloc. Well, the reality is data consistency checks are not done via check alloc. Check alloc is a part of database consistency checks. It's just one of the checks that happens to be performed when you do dbcc check db. So that's not the bigger engine. That's the smaller piece of check db. So yeah, fun answer. This one's an even better answer. I have SQL Server installed on Linux with a 32 terabyte database. Requires RPO 15 minutes, RTO 3 hours. What concerns would you have and how would you achieve those objectives? Now, again, clearly RPO, RTO used in this case to try to get an understanding of the candidate's frame of mind and what their depth of knowledge is around those terms, recovery point objective and recovery time objective, and see if they understand that this is talking about backups. All right, the answer is you should use transactional replication. I'm not sure how to address that one still, because replication is not a method to reach RPO and RTO unless you're severely distorting what those objectives are and what backup objectives happens to represent. Okay, the tools. Now we got through all that fun. I hope that some of you got a little bit of a laugh out of that. Excuse me while I get a drink. Okay, we will talk about profiler and extended events and extended events profiler. That drink did not help, sorry. I'm gonna mute just a sec so I can cough. I'm sorry about that. And still the frog is deep in my throat. Hope you can hear me. Anyway, profiler, extended events, and extended events profiler. My opinion is if it has profiler in the name, avoid it. Don't use it. Extended events profiler is a marketing ploy by Microsoft to get people to try to use extended events. But the reality is you've got some canned sessions there that are generated from a template in the background. You can alter that after so you start the session. As long as you don't delete the session, you can stop it, you can alter it. But if the session happens, you do run the risk that as you restart it, I have seen it overwrite any settings you've put into it and go back to whatever were canned in the template. So if it has profiler in the name, it's profiler, and it's not a tool I use. Granted, extended events profiler does use extended events under the engine and performs about 1 million times better than profiler. But the reality is go use the real extended events and not that little GUI add-on in Management Studio. And I will show those in the demos. At any rate, the moral of that story is if it has profiler in the name, just avoid it. That's my opinion. Okay, profiler pros and cons. Again, this is kind of a hard section. I really like to have audience members. Please put in the Q&A as well, or in the chat, preferably in the chat. Put in the chat what you deem to be pros or good values for profiler, and what you see as a detriment in profiler. And we'll see, if we can get good participation that way. I would like to see if we can get some alignment with what we have here. What I've already put on the slide. Okay, so don't hesitate to go ahead and add your stuff there. If I miss something, please put it in, because I would like to add that in to the presentation. I believe in presenting for the public. All right, pros for profiler. I hear this all the time. It's very easy to use. You can set up a session in just a few clicks. All right. We'll show that shortly. Familiarity. Okay, profiler came out in 2000. And when that came out, you had an 8-year gap, everybody getting used to using profiler. All right, 2008, when extended events came out, it had no GUI, and we'll probably talk about that in the extended events pros and cons. All right, the fact of the matter is, when you come out with a tool and it doesn't have a GUI, that creates problems. People don't like to use it. It's easier just to point and click rather than type. All right, long history, talked about that. It's very easy to set up. I'm not sure I agree with that one, but hey, great. Has a GUI. You can live monitor. All right. It is deprecated, as we mentioned a bit ago in the epic fail of a survey that I was trying to do. It's been deprecated since 2008. All right, 2008 was 14 years ago. All right, old tech. It reminds me, how many of you like to fly on a passenger jet and know the age of it? When you look at passenger jets and you correlate the age of passenger jets to SQL Server technology or IT technology in general, a 5-year-old passenger jet is basically the same as 50-year-old technology, right? So when we're talking about profiler, we're talking about flying on basically a very decrepit 747. I'm not sure we really want to do that. I prefer to fly on something that's streamlined and current and up to date. Script version is less than intuitive. If you've ever tried to script out your profiler session, you get a whole bunch of integers or numeric values, and then you go, oh, this is awesome. What does this value actually mean? It's not human friendly. Okay. You can't trace new features. As mentioned earlier, it's deprecated since 2008. You cannot troubleshoot anything to do with availability groups or query store or add any new feature out there that's come out since 2008. You can't find anything out about it in Profiler. You have to use extended events. All right. And my favorite con, yes, it is a pro as well. People love to live monitor with Profiler. Sadly, people love to monitor with Profiler, live monitor with Profiler. And that live monitoring, let's say that you've got somebody without the benefits of Teams or Zoom or Slack where you can screen share. I've got somebody in New York and somebody in India and somebody in the UK and then somebody in Australia, and they all work for the same company and they're trying to troubleshoot this performance issue on SQL Server. So what do they all do? They all pull up Profiler on their different servers on their different workstations for the same server. Well, guess what? You've now done 4 times the penalty on your server to live monitor it with Profiler, because it creates 4 traces against your server, not just a single trace. And we'll get into that a little bit with extended events, but in short, my favorite con is Profiler is essentially a fire hose. Uh, it sucks for filtering. It does not trim the data out very well. And so the more you monitor it, the more your performance degrades. Okay, extended events, pros and cons. Same thing as before. If you're familiar with extended events, let's go ahead and put your pros and cons in here as we're going along. And I will hopefully see something that I like and happily give you a hamburger on Tuesday if I see you. Okay, extended events, pros. It's very lightweight. All right, we just talked about the fire hose effect from Profiler and the heavy-handedness of it. Extended events is a 180-degree way of thinking about it. All right, a lot more lightweight, a lot more efficient, very high performing, supports all of the new features, and then every new feature that you haven't heard of. We'll look at some of that as we go through the events, and I'll show you some of the stuff. And yes, with extended events, I can live monitor. Does it have the penalty that Profiler does for live monitoring? No, it does not. When I look at extended events and I'm trying to figure out what if I script out an extended event session, I script it out, I get words that mean something to me in the human language, or depending on your locale, right? Right. So it's human friendly. When I'm able to see what the session's actually doing, I can understand it better and I can become more efficient as a database professional. All right. Easy to script and much more power with the scripting. All right. It's newish, right? As mentioned before. As much as, a month ago, I continue to have this deal with a lot of people, just talking to other DBAs that have never heard of extended events just a month ago at a different client. They'd never heard of extended events. It's been out for 14 years. Have you not heard of it? Okay, I'm a little bit of a DBA, I guess, in that way. It's different. Anything that's different is hard, right? It's something new to learn. It takes a little bit of time. Doesn't have a GUI. You're right. In 2008, it did not have a GUI. In 2012, a GUI was implemented. And with 2008 R2, you have Caius that had written a GUI overlay for it. So it worked, right? It's hard. It's difficult. We'll see about that. The reality is it difficult or is it just because it's new? And it means you got to go and spend an extra 5 minutes to learn this new technology. I think it's more along that lines than the fact that extended events is actually hard. It's actually pretty easy, and I'll show you some of that. There are differences between Sql versions. I am full support of that one right there. Extended events has changed with every version of SQL Server since 2008. Every version. And in fact, you throw out the CUs that have come out with 2017, 19, it has changed substantially between CUs as well. Service Pack, with RTM versus latest Service Pack in 2016, there were changes in each of the Service Packs as well. Why is it constantly changing? Well, the fact of the matter is it's evolving. It's becoming better. As new features are added with SQL Server, we have to have a way of being able to capture that new stuff. It's going to be captured in extended events. So extended events has to change. And sometimes they've taken events out. Sometimes they change the names of events, or sometimes they change the name of a target. Why do they do that? Well, because it makes more sense to the people that are consuming it, that are using it. So they're trying to actually help us out by evolving the product into something extremely powerful. And here's an odd one that I heard. In order to put an extended event session on the server, it required change control to be able to set up the extended event trace. Okay, well, if it's a con for extended events, I'm going to be painfully blunt and say that is the same con that you would have for profiler. If you are starting a trace, you're starting a trace. It doesn't matter if it's server-side trace or profiler extended events. If a change control is required to start a trace, then it's the same con for all of them. But apparently at this place, and it was legit. I fact checked it. They require change control for extended events because they didn't understand what it was. But you could go and run profiler until the cows came home without talking to anybody and say, hey, I'm running profiler on the server. Well, okay, I'm going to go use the more damaging tool and cause more problems without change control and force more structure around extended events just because I don't know about it. Well, if you can start a profiler through the GUI, a profiler session through the GUI and live monitor it, guess what? You can do it with extended events and have far less impact on the server while getting back far more useful information than profiler. And there's no need for change control. I'm sorry, that's just silly. Okay. Too many clicks, and too many clicks means that somebody complained that it takes more than 3 clicks to be able to set up an extended event session inside a SQL server. And they could set up a profiler trace inside a SQL server in 3 clicks. My testing I've done this many times. Every time I present this session, as a matter of fact, and the audience always counts the clicks. And guess what? I can start an extended event trace while not exactly 3 clicks. If I cannot start a profiler session in 3 clicks either. So, but I can show you how you can start an extended event session very quickly and be very efficient with it. All right, I'll show you some best practices with that. All right. Barriers. Again, I'm going to repeat this. I'll go back through the QA in a bit and the chat. If you can put up why you're not using extended events currently, I'd like to see how that meshes with what I put up here. Okay, so please go ahead and have at it. Why do people not use extended events? Number one reason is familiarity. It's new. Profiler's been around. It was around for 8 more years. People got more accustomed to it. All right. It uses XML. Well, dirty secret with it is it actually doesn't use XML. It uses bar binary. And the XML that you see is actually translated in the engine. So all of your traces, extended event traces, are actually in bar binary. They are not in XML. That doesn't help the argument any. I understand that because a DBA's worst enemy in the data realm is XML. Have not run across any DBAs that actually truly love XML. Have they said they've loved it and were they being facetious about it? Absolutely. Have they truly loved it? No. I have not run into a DBA who is serious and said that they loved XML. Do they get used to it? Absolutely. Okay. But the reality is extended events under the covers is bar binary. It's Microsoft's proprietary bar binary. And for presentation purposes, they translate it from bar binary to XML. And that's the part that people are have an issue with. I've got to go and write XML I have to parse this XML to try to use extended events efficiently. Well, I've got some scripts to help you with that XML. All right. And then this was probably one of my all-time favorites. Esoteric knowledge required. And that esoteric knowledge was specifically about T-SQL. I have to know some uncommon things about T-SQL in order to be able to use extended events. Well, have you ever done create procedure? Have you ever done drop procedure? Have you ever done create table? Have you ever done drop table? Have you ever done alter procedure? That is essentially the type of T-SQL that is required to do an extended event session. Create extended event session on server. Drop extended event session on server. Does it require anything more advanced than that to use extended events if you're using T-SQL? Quite frankly, no. If you're looking to parse XML, it takes a little bit more knowledge, yes. But do you have to be able to parse the XML? No. If you want to use T-SQL to do some mangling of the data, okay, yeah, you might do that, or you could use the GUI. The reality is, my goal is to not chase you away from extended events. I want to show you how you can use extended events easier and why it's not such this big ugly monster hiding under your bed. Okay. And you can't correlate perfmon. You can. All right. And distributed replay. You can. Both of those do require one extra step, but it is possible to correlate extended events to perfmon. There is documentation on how to do that. There is documentation on how to do distributed replay and correlate the or use extended events for distributed replay. Unfortunately, it means converting the extended event into basically a server-side trace, but it does work. Okay, and then RSI, and that means repetitive strain injury. Why is that a problem? Oh, yeah, that's it. It takes too many clicks to start up a session. So you're going to get carpal tunnel syndrome. That's a joke. You're not going to get, it's not going to be any more difficult or more harsh on your hands than sitting at the computer every day already like you do. Okay, demo time. Let's go ahead and get inside of extended events. All right. Before I go into the script demos, okay, I do want to show you the GUI for extended events. Okay, and I'm going to show you the XEvent profiler. Okay, if you're on a modern version of Management Studio, XEvent profiler has been introduced as a node. You have 2 templates. That's it for XEvent profiler, standard and T-SQL. In my opinion, I have not found either of those to be useful, both in the way that they're written and in an everyday use case. All right. So I can go ahead and I don't have the session running right now. I can stop the session. And you don't see it because it popped on my different screen. I'll move it over. Okay, so it pops up, stops the session. You see that, it says success. I just want to do this one more time. Notice how it's still not grayed out like normally it would be if the session were not running. I'm going to go ahead and do that again. Now you did see that I had that stopped earlier, right? Well, guess what? It was successful in stopping it yet again. I want to show you something else over here. I'm going to go into management. I'm going to go to extended events. I'm going to go to my sessions. All right. I do not have on this particular server all of my sessions that I'd like to deploy. That is a best practice that I do like to discuss with people, and I will show that in the master's passport. I do have somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 70 different sessions that I just put on every server in the stop state. And then it's real easy to get them started. Okay, so right here, you can see my sessions that are running. On this particular server, I only have a few sessions. This is a system session. I don't like having it running. I do recommend having it if it's. The problem with this is if you stop it in 5 minutes, it's going to start again, because why? Microsoft has a timer in the background that automatically starts it. If you delete it, guess what? That same timer is going to go and recreate it. Here's the caveat as well. Not only does Microsoft have that timer that runs every 5 minutes to recreate that telemetry XEvent session, but what it does is when it recreates it, it drops it first, and then it iteratively goes in and creates the session, and event by event, it alters the session, goes back and alters the event of the session. I don't recommend that method. Okay, that's more impactful than just saying, okay, create event session with all of your events already done, and it's done. I might demonstrate that in the master's passport if there's time. Okay. All right. So that is a system session. That's a system session, and that's a system session right there. Always on health, system health, and telemetry XEvents. Those are the visible ones. There are other hidden sessions. Right. Notice that standard says I can stop it still, and every time I click it, it says it's successfully stopped. Do you see that session up there at all? No, you do not. I do not have it there. I'm going to go ahead and hit launch session. And yeah, great. Okay. It automatically opens up this view. All right. It launched the session. It opened up the live monitoring. That is about the only side benefit that people really wanted out of this. Okay. I'm not a fan of it. If I go and refresh my sessions right here, you'll see that quick session standard now shows as stopped because it has a little red box on it instead of the green arrows. And it created that session there. All right. Can I go and alter it? Oops. And I'm going to talk about another thing real quick with that. All right. So you can see right here, these are the events with the quick session, right? So if I come over here and to configure, it'll be easier to see because my high-res display still does not work well with Management Studio, and Microsoft has messed that up. You can see we've got attention, error reported. So basically, the only things that are, it's got login, log out, RPC, and batch completes, right? Not super intuitive, not super useful in my opinion there. All right. Are there any filters on any of those? No filters, no actions. All right. So this is just capture everything. This is basically fire hose effect. All right. You can alter that, but if you came back down here and went to launch session again, guess what? It overwrites it. All right. A downside in addition to this, you will see, I'll show with the system health session. You see how I have these packages here. I have event file and ring buffer. Okay. Best practice, create a target and send your data to a target. All right. Quick session standard has no target. So as soon as you close that little window, guess what's happening? It's, that data is gone from whatever you captured. All right. So let's go ahead and delete that. And you can see there's GUI everywhere. All right. So that was that one right there, right? If I wanted to have the same effect as that quick session start at target and just watch the live data, I just right click on the session and hit watch live data. I do not need to have these useless sessions down here in XEvent Profiler. Now, I'm a little harsh. I'm a little blunt. I'm going to blame it on being super early in the morning. Wink, wink. Okay. So I have nothing really going on. So the system health is not going to capture anything. But if I had a busy system, you might see that capturing on in there. All right. So that's XEvent Profiler, right? I'm going to go ahead and talk about A couple of sessions that I do have that I was testing out on this particular server. I have bulk inserts and bulk load perf that I use for clients from time to time. All right. If I have those running right now, right? So if I deploy my sessions to a client as I recommend, all right, I want you to look at I connect to a server, and we're going to look at the number of mouse clicks that it takes in order to get to a session and start a session. And I'm talking about a useful session and a targeted session that is ready to go. If you put these on all the servers, like I recommend, as I've said a couple of times. So there's a hint, do it. That's one click. I don't need to expand databases. I go down to management. I already have it expanded because I went into earlier. That would be 2 clicks right there. So I'll just click on it as if I did. Extend events, 3 clicks. System health, that's actually, I didn't want system health. Bulk inserts is 4 clicks. Start session would be 5 clicks. Do I need to watch the data live? Personally, I don't believe I need to look at the data live. I'm going to go ahead and let the data run for a bit. And then after some time, I can go and expand bulk inserts, open up package event file, and I can go look at view target data. Do I need to have any XML knowledge on this? Nope, I do not. Now here's a bonus. Once that's open, I can go ahead and start filtering and sorting from within this quote unquote Microsoft Access grid, as some people have called it. I'm like, okay, it's a data grid, I get it, but I do have the ability to aggregate. I do have the ability to group. Okay, I have the ability to also filter. Okay, if I want to set a time filter anytime from July 25th and August 4th for this particular case, I can go ahead and alter that filter and set for a specific time range. If I want to group, it's an easy thing. I can see that I have 24 SQL statement starting events and 1 RPC starting event. Now I can start drilling into it further. If I want to add more layers on the grouping, I can add more layers on the grouping. Okay. You can't do that in Profiler. Wink. All right. You got to do something a little bit more. Now I could do the same thing, that same sort of stuff in T-SQL, and that's great. All right. It gives me more power. I'm going to close that. So that was 5 clicks, right? And how any takers on what it will take to get into Profiler? How many clicks? That's 1. That's 2. And it's on a different window right now, so it's prompting me with the connection dialog box. I'm going to go ahead and hit connect. That's 3 clicks. Now I have I want to cancel that so that I can move it over here where you can see it. Okay. So after connecting, it was 3 clicks. This was the connection dialog box. I hit connect. All right, and trace properties pops up on my other window, move it over. So now we're to this window. Okay, I'm already at 3 clicks. I don't have anything started yet, right? Okay, do I want the standard? Okay, great. If I just do it just like this without anything else and using the standard template, all right, that's 4 clicks. All right, you're saving yourself 1 click, roughly. Okay, I probably messed up my count because I was moving things around. So 5 clicks, 4 clicks, what's the difference? Oh, there we go. That was 2, 3. If I want to set a real session, okay. Personally, I don't recommend doing any of this without setting some sort of stop time. Okay, but at any rate, so 4 clicks and a trace is started with profiler. 5 clicks, I have the same thing started with extended events. If you're talking about extended events profiler, and I think that was the big reason that profiler was done the way it was. I mean, you go to it, okay, I'm connected to the server, 1, 2, 3, 4 clicks. All right. And that's not giving you any sort of real power. All right, enough of that, okay? I can get and effectively set up real sessions in extended events and not the standard template in profiler and have something useful across all of my servers in just a matter of 5 clicks. It's not a big deal, okay? All right, version tracking. I have this one open right now. And that was actually set for this one over here. I talked about how extended events is changing with every version of SQL Server, right? And that's why I have this open right here. I wanted to show people, okay, we have maps with extended events, and I have when it was first released, version 10, which is SQL Server 2008, when it was actually deprecated or maybe altered, but that means that that exact name has changed. So it changed in R2, either it was removed or it became something different, okay? But you see we have a whole bunch of them right here that are still existing with 2014, which is SQL Server 2017. I haven't updated this with the 2019 data yet, or the 2022. Okay, so I did this for each, the maps, the actions, and the targets, and the events. Those are all critical features within extended events. Target is where you're going to send the data. Event is what's capturing the data. Action is adding extra to the payload. I talk about all that in the master's passport. So you can see there is huge change between the various different things. Like right here in 2016, Microsoft added this TDS login, basically encryption on the login. So you could trace that and capture that and understand what's going on with your different encryption levels. All right. Again, more features, just a lot of stuff added in 2016. And again in 2017. And let's see, is this the one? Okay, and this is right here, just showing in 2017, 1,500 events in 2017. 2019 had 2,200 events, and 2022, it continues to increase. So there's a large pool for you to be able to go through. One thing I forgot to show you guys is how easy it is without doing having the session already existing. If I go into extended events, I go to new session. So this is something that I love to do right here. Session name cannot be empty. Great. I'm going to name my session empty. Now it likes it. I can't create it without any events. All right, so I'll go add the events shortly. But before I get there, when you get into extended events, you do have the ability to automatically load a template from Profiler and use the same stuff that was already there available in Profiler and give you some semblance of what you're used to in Profiler to make it just a little bit easier. All right, so you see all those different templates. I don't typically use the templates. That's not saying you can or can't. But I'll just go ahead and do this one because it's an easy one. If I wanted to monitor the degree of parallelism for some reason, it's actually a useful tool. There's some tricks that I can use with degree of parallelism to capture various different metrics that I can't capture in Profiler. All right, so I can go ahead and do that. I've added an event. Now, the thing that I don't like about this is it does not tell you that you need to have a target. And that's why you can create a session without a target if you just want to watch live data. If you want to do profiler all over again, but without all of the damage. I do recommend automatically you just go over here and create a target. And it's not hard. So it does take more clicks. I understand that to do this, but hey, you get more ability to trim down the data and focus explicitly on what you're looking to achieve and making extended events all that much more efficient. So I take the extra time and set up the session, and then when you're all done, no matter what it is, I wouldn't really necessarily do this, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. Whatever I wanted to do here. So my degree of parallelism, anytime it equals 1. I want to know what queries came through on a degree of parallelism equals 1. From here, okay, I've got a target. I've got all this other stuff set. Bare minimums, in my opinion, I could either hit OK, or I could hit cancel, or I could hit one more option. And the last option is the best practice and is my recommendation. I'm just going to go ahead and hit script and go to a new window. Why do I script it? Well, there's a lot of reasons to script it. Okay. Number one, I can take whatever I created on this server, and now I've got a script that I can use in a deployment package or just straight up script and go into Management Studio and do a multi-server query and create that session on every server that's under my purview. And it's done, quick and easy. And I can also save the script off so that I have the ability to come back and review it at another time, so I know exactly what the session is doing. All right, so I script it. I know what is happening inside its extended events. Like I mentioned, it is not esoteric. You see right here, create event session on server. Add event. That's not hard. Action. Where clause. I've never seen that in T-SQL before. I'm being facetious. Okay, I'm going to add my target, and the file name automatically goes to the default SQL Server logs directory. I don't recommend doing that. I recommend actually putting in, mine is actually on this for my test systems. Something like that. And then you're good to go. All right. So that would create that session. That's easy. And then I've got it set up for later use. All right. I'm going to kill that. And I did want to do this one right here. How are we on time? I put him to sleep. That is awesome. Okay, I'm going to keep going then. I'm going to get both of these loaded because I wanted to demonstrate this. I'll come back to that one later. Okay, so this right here, to help people out, I can take and run this script against a server. And what it will do for me is it will take every single one of these sessions that I have right here listed in the left-hand pane, always on, arithmetic error, bulk inserts, and so on and so forth. It will take every single one of those that are existing, and it's going to create a T-SQL script for me so that I can go and use that to create it on other servers. All right. Very useful in my opinion. The demo version is not the most current version. It's a version I will provide that I've already provided for the downloads. but it is not the most current version. Most current version, I've added some bells and whistles. So if you want it, you just have to reach out to me. Anyway, so that's a huge hit. Well, it's not really huge. It's a decent sized script that's going to go through and recreate anything that you have created over here in the extended events list. That way you don't have to go through each and every single one of them, right click, hit script session as, and so on. So it's just an extra power tool to put into your cabinet. All right, this one right here, I am looking at extended events, and I wanted to compare the events in trace versus extended events. And this connection that I'm on right here is a SQL Server 2017 connection. Oh no, it's a 2019 connection. So if I take a look at that, 2019, I have 1,838 events for this version that I have, 180 for server-side trace. Server-side trace has not changed since SQL Server 2008. That is the same number that you will have in 2008. I can show you over here if my system doesn't lock up on this one. It says a SQL 17. I'm going to go ahead and do a new one. And we'll change this to the 2016 instance. 1,300 events in 2016, 180 for server-side trace. Okay, that's so you can see from 2016 alone to 2019, server-side trace, i.e. profiler, has not changed. All right, it is not changing. It has not changed in 14 years. Do not put your eggs in that basket, because if you do, you're gonna find yourself in a world of hurt trying to figure out what's going on. So over here, I've run this script to show SQL Server 2017 and the feature and the events related to various different features, and also new features, or as they call it inside of SQL Server, it's the package that drives it. New features or unclassified features that were released in 2017. All right, so we have automatic tuning has 7 events. If you're trying to do that with Profiler, you're not capturing any information about automatic tuning. Now, not technically a big feature, but Microsoft added a new traceability feature, and it's called checkpoint load, so that you can see what your checkpoints are doing on the server, right? And you've got 3 events related to that. You're not going to capture that with Profiler. And then I've dropped down into things like this. JSON, okay, absolutely was released after 2008 as a feature inside SQL Server. All right, 2017, you have 7 events. 2016 had 7 events as well. And so I've gone through and I've got this all mapped out so I can see, hey, what kind of events are related to different things. I can track 69, and this is kind of a funny one right here. So transaction versus transactions, okay? I don't know why I put that label like that, because that's not really, that's feature name, not feature count, and feature event count. All right, so overall, and then this bottom query down here tells me when the feature was released, or so on, as far as a traceability thing. Microsoft added backup restore feature, but really they had other methods to capture backup and restores. All right, so that's all visible inside of extended events. That specific, all these queries are available there. And then, right, this one, and this is going into the esoteric stuff. All right, this is my gen XML strings. So if you have XML stuff, I can put in the session name. I'm going to be able to go through and parse out the XML from it and do it automatically for you so that we can get usable data. It's going to basically create a script for you that you can generate if I provide a session name, it's going to provide you a script for that session that's already got the XML strings already built into it, so it'll parse it out for you, so you don't have to go and figure out how to work with XML, if that makes sense. All right, so I believe this is the right one. Let's go ahead and put, I don't have hash warn sleep on this one, so I'm going to go ahead and put bulk inserts. And so am I on the help if I were on the right instance? So you see right there, what happened to me is the middle two result sets did nothing. Why? Because that session doesn't exist on the instance that this query was connected to. And I fixed that, and now it's got it all set up right there. So I leave that up to the attendees to go and figure out how to go ahead and put this together if you want to modify the script so that it returns it all in one result set. But I like to be able to sit and look at this and say, oh, this is what that column is actually doing, the session that's coming from. So if I pulled all this data together, and I could go to this new query window. Take my column XML. I do have to make one slight adjustment on the top one, so that it's formatted pretty, and then I take my action XML. And then I'll take my closing XML, my closing statement. Verify it. So you can see right here, this is basically what the script does. Goes and generates all of your XML parsing queries for you. So now you don't have to figure out how to do that. It's just going to parse it out of the event session, and it's going to build the XML parsing strings for you. And then I probably should update that, nitpicky a little bit. Anyway, so that is that in a nutshell. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm not going to go through all of the demo scripts that are over here. I'll explain them just a little bit. You have data discovery scripts. Now let's just do it because it'll be easier. So if I'm trying to find a specific event that I would really like to do, which can also be done through the GUI, I can show that as well. But if I'm trying to do this, trying to find a specific event, then I can run this query. I just type in the keyword right here, and it'll go and query throughout extended events. I can put the keyword for here. So I have it in a few different places, and they're just a bunch of different scripts kind of melded together in one demo script. So you add the keyword that you're looking for, and then it'll search through extended events so that you can try to find it. And if you saw me do that in the GUI when I put in parallel, and it just filtered down through it real quick. All right, let's bump back to the slide deck. All of those scripts will be have already been provided. Let's go ahead and take a look at other resources that are available. You could either download it from the site that's from DataGeeks. It's already been provided to them, or you could go to that bit.ly that's right there. You can also go get a lot of extended event stuff from these resources. SQL XEvents.com, xevents.jasonbrimhall.info, and my XE 60-day series, which is well over 100 articles. Okay. That's also in the slides. All the slides have been shared as well. You can contact me through these. These are additional resources, my LinkedIn, my Twitter handles. Just a side note right here, my business is databasemasters.com. SqlBP.com used to be run by Robert Davis. I worked with his wife when Robert passed away. I am now the owner of that, and we're keeping both SqlSoldier.com alive and SqlBP.com alive to honor Robert. So all those resources are still up and going. And then, as mentioned previously, XEvents.com. And let's go take a look at upcoming events. You got PATH Summit, Data Platform Geek Summit, and Cloud Data Virtual Group upcoming presentations that I will be doing. Let's take a look at your questions. From Corey, any solution in extended events where you could do what you could with Profiler, where you could combine performance files with the trace files? Yes, it takes an extra step. That is possible. It's been possible since 2008 R2. Corey again, advantage of Profilers, combine perfmon files with Profiler, and Pro, bit easier to manage the filters in extended events. Absolutely. I'm assuming he means in extended events, because the filters in extended events are significantly easier to manage. And con, more difficult to understand the events and column filters. Is that a con for Profiler? I think that's a con for Profiler, and I do agree. I would agree with that sentiment there. So that's what it looks like there. Thank you, Corey, for your participation. That's very helpful. Chat. Please provide your feedback. There is feedback just sent to everybody, so please use that link to provide feedback. And any more questions?
Yeah, it looks like while more questions, you can all of you put up your questions in the Q&A panel, and while you're bring up, and I request others to please provide the feedback. The link is available in the chat window. And while all of these are happening, I request Jason to speak a couple of more words about the upcoming pre-con, what he's going to discuss, and what's going to be covered, and what next level they can learn other than what they have learned today. I request Jason to speak a few words about that.
Okay, so yeah, that's, I was looking at Nick, and Nick has a question here, and Chow L has a question. Let me address that for the what's coming up first, while more questions get coming brought in. So in the extended event session, pre-con, I'm gonna get these closed up just a bit so you can see this. These are some of the demos that we're talking about that we'll be looking at in the extended events. I'm going to go deep dive into various different aspects of extended events, how extended events is built. We're going to look at some troubleshooting sessions, like for instance, like temp DB contention, or missing stats, or trapping SQL Server, or getting the deadlock information. Getting deadlocked is not super bad, but it is there. Cardinality estimation and things like that. But I've also got this Royd session that has other things. So it is a combination between the scripts that you see right here on the right, and between the normal XE session and this XE Roids. So we'll be looking into deep diving in CheckDB perf, getting a little bit more in depth into actual sessions and setting up sessions and using them to troubleshoot, rather than just giving a glossy overview, kind of like what this session is. And I'm going to jump to Nick, frequently have trouble getting the like filter to work with SQL text. So I am going to go into this right here. I'm just going to use my bulk inserts. So I'm events. Back behind again. Okay, close that. So I'm presuming you're looking at the SQL statement, and you're looking at like on your filter there for that one, right? Is that about what you're talking about right there, Nick? Let me just, instead of doing it that way, let's do this. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I can't quite do that. It's just hard to scroll back and forth. I'm sorry. I just like to get this. Where else is it? Oh my gosh, I only saw the two of them. Okay, help me out. Where's the other one? Freaking SQL prompt. You'd think they would have this working with extended events by now. Somebody with Redgate, please help me. Okay, sorry, that took a bit of time there. All right, so this is what I'm presuming Nick is talking about right here. Okay, so in this case, I have SQL Server, SQL Text like, and then I have this SQL Server, SQL Text like down here. Okay, I don't know if you noticed in the screen, the property screen over here, when I go into this one, for example, and I go to my predicate, what it translates it to, I don't know if you're using T-SQL to build it or if you're using the operators inside of the GUI to build it. You see I have SQL Server.SQL text in my field, my predicate, and the operators is, it has like iSQL Unicode string. So if it automatically is translating it to that, but I built this query from T-SQL, and this is exactly how I wrote it like this. What you might want to do if you're having problems is just add the Unicode N in front and see if that helps. But this one right here, if you look in my target data, you can see that these have so I was looking for anything that had bulk and the T-SQL text. It's only given, that's a T-SQL stack. Here's my text. In this case, it captured the bulk admin. Where is it? It's probably scrolled off too far. Let's look at this one. Yeah, that SQL text is just scrolling off too far. Okay, let me. And these are new ones that were just hand captured when I did this. And that's because I generated the bulk session. So here's this. Yeah, so you can see down here in the statement, you have at session name varchar 128 equals bulk inserts. I know it's hard to see, but your individual Zoom windows, you could zoom that in on your own there. But if you look at over here, that's I don't seem to have any specific issues with that. So if you have some sort of specific example, if you could just DM me on Twitter at SQL Runner, and then I'll exchange my information so that we could try to troubleshoot that and find out what you're running into. And then can you query parameter values with XEvents, not the compiled parameter values? So you're looking at runtime values for your parameters. And yes, runtime values are stored, but this is one of those cases where doing that can actually have a detrimental effect. And that the only time that the runtime values is stored is when you go and capture your post-execution event for capturing your query plan, post-execution query plan. So I think is the name of it. I don't have it on the server at all. Let me try this one right here. I think I have it on this one. So those, I think this is the right server. So I mentioned earlier having all of my sessions available. You can see I have a lot of sessions right here, and I can just take and script all of those with the reverse engineer script that I've provided, and I can recreate all of those on every server I want to. But at any rate, I wanted to see if I might have it right here. No, those aren't it. I know what we can do to show you which one that is. So you can do query post execution show plan. The query post execution plan profile, I wouldn't do that. And then you have the compilation, which is actually just before runtime. So you want execution, which is runtime, and that should give you the parameter values. But huge caveat with this one that it basically turns, it still performs better than Profiler, but the filtering, your performance is going to degrade as far as the XE session goes, because it now has to capture, no matter what filtering you do with this particular event, no matter what filtering you do, it will capture the post-execution and plan for every query that hits your server if you run that. Anything else? Okay, with that, I appreciate your attendance and your time today. And I hope to see you guys again during the Data Platform Summit, if not during my session, during my pre-con, at least somewhere else. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thank you for taking out time and delivering the webinar for Data Platform Mix audience. And I request all the attendees to please go ahead and give the feedback. That is very important for us. So with this, friends, we'll end the webinar for today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. See you next time. Bye.